Alright, welcome to another 902 gaming video, and today I have some new spoilers to go over with you. It looks like there was around 34, 44 cards spoiled since yesterday. I think there was a live stream or something that had happened, and we're just going to reset it here. Okay, here we go. Some live stream or something happened yesterday. They revealed a whole bunch of cards. The few that I did kind of peruse it, so I wanted to try to make this video a little bit shorter and kind of focus on the cards that I thought were the most relevant, maybe to standard, potentially alchemy too, I suppose, but at least the standard anyway. And just maybe even the rarest and mythic. I might skip over some, like, really get into depths of these commons and stuff like that. Although I think some of the common enchantments are actually pretty good. So first up, we have Kodama of the West Tree. So it's 3 mana, 3/3 with reach. It's a spirit. Modified creatures you control have trample. So if you remember, modify is if it's enchanted or has a counter on it, a +1/+1 counter, or any type of counter, I believe. I don't think it's just a +1/+1 counter. I think it's any counter. So like I think there's like a menace counter, a bunch of different ones anyway. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, search the library basic land card and put it on the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. Well, that means, let's see. I mean, that's okay. I think it's probably stronger than I think it is. But I tend to look at a card like that and say, okay, well, if I have a modified creature, so let's assume even a worst case scenario, I suppose. Say I have an enchantment on it that gives it +1/+1, or there's just a +1/+1 counter on it, say from Snakeskin Veil or something like that. Okay, well, that creature's 3/3 now. Or even if you take this creature in and of itself, so it'll be a 4/4. Then when it deals, it has trample, also reach, so it attacks, deals trample damage for 1 damage, let's say. You get a basic land, so essentially you thin out your deck a little bit. There's a certain point where you're winning the game anyways, and having an ability like that doesn't, it's one of those win more type of scenarios. I think just the ability alone to give your modified creatures trample, I think is very, very good. I think this, and the fact that this card's 1 green mana also is very, very good. It means it can go in a variety of different decks, maybe black green, or maybe like a Sultai, or just a bunch of different decks anyway. So that's a good thing about it. The final ability, I don't know, or the final ability, the last ability, I'm not sure. I mean, it'll definitely help. It'll definitely help. But there's, I think, enough lands are played now. I mean, maybe in mono green, you're just, it'll increase your likelihood of drawing not land. I don't know what the percentage is. I can't remember. I think it's like per land, it's like 0.10% or something like that for each land that you thin out of your deck or you take out of your deck. It reduces your chance of drawing it by, I don't know I can't remember what the percentage is. It might be higher than that, but I don't remember exactly. So it's neat. It's a cool card. At 3 mana, it's competing for a lot, I think, especially in mono green. So if this has a deck, it's likely going to be in something else. The interesting thing about this card too is that because it's a spirit, there's a potential there. I noticed there's a lot of spirits in this set, so there's a potential for maybe like a blue-green spirit deck or something to that effect, maybe. But anyways, we'll go on to the next card. So Befriending the Moth, creature gets +1/+1 and flying. So 2 creatures get +1/+1 flying, and then exile it, and then it returns to the battlefield as a 2/4 flying moth. Neat. 4 mana is probably not good enough to see play. Definitely draft. Then we have the red legendary land. Sokenzan, Origin of the Uprisers. So this one has channel, discard. And then it create 2 colorless 1/1 spirit creature tokens. They gain haste. This ability costs 1 less for each legendary creature you have. It's not listed here. You discard it, and it's 4 mana. So it's 4 mana to discard to get 2 1/1 hastes. For a land, I think that's pretty good. Being able to convert a land into a couple of creatures, or spirits as well. Again, I go back to the previous card. The fact that they get haste, I don't know. There's obviously a strong possibility that this costs 3 mana instead of 4. I don't think it says anywhere about channel being discarded as a sorcery or anything crazy like that. So, yeah, this person's, if you can channel it, you can channel anytime the card's in your hand, you have priority. Yeah. So if that's true, then this card's very, very good. So it's pretty sweet. We got into the red one. Also colorless isn't irrelevant, maybe, or potentially, I should say. But we'll see how that plays out anyway. We got a +2/+1 enchantment for 1 mana. That's pretty good. That's probably the strongest 1 mana enchantment that I've seen in a while, I think. Okay, then we have Invoke Despair. It's 5 mana. Sorcery, rare. 4 black in as well. Target opponent sacrifices a creature. Okay, that's not worth 5 mana. If they can't, so in other words, if they don't control a creature, they lose 2 life and you draw a card. So it's 5 mana, they lose 2 and you draw a card. Still not worth it. Repeats its powers for an enchantment and a planeswalker. So in other words, you get to do it 3 times, which is 6 life, potentially, if they have nothing on board. And you draw 3 cards. Its potential is pretty high, I think. Something tells me that 5 mana is likely too much for this card to see play. If it was like if it had said target opponent sacrifices a creature or enchantment or planeswalker and then repeat it 2 more times, then I could see this seeing play. Because you likely, get rid of 2 or 3 creatures. Like they have to sacrifice a creature. If they have like 2 or 3 of them out, then you can get rid of them. This basically assumes that they have an enchantment, a planeswalker, and a creature out. Or likely only one of all of these. Not good enough for enchantment removal for sure, because the enchantment deck, something like Hallowed Haunting will run multiple copies of enchantments, and I don't think that's going to be good enough. But we'll see with this card. I'm not sold on it right now. I think it's looks a little bit better than it probably is. Likely it's going to be they sacrifice creature and they lose 4 life and you draw 2 cards. I don't know if that's worth 5 mana. It's probably worth 4. I don't know if it's worth 5 mana, especially 4 black. I'm not 100% sure on that. It is a nice tool for the mono black deck, the black snow deck, but we'll see how that plays out too in the coming format. All right. Now we have Scrap Welder. 3 mana Goblin Artificer. It's a 3/3. So sacrifice an artifact with a mana value X. Return target artifact with a mana value less than X from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until end of turn. I wonder how many vehicles are actually going to be in this set where the vehicles matter sort of thing comes around. That potentially where this could see play, because it also has a high power toughness, so it can crew vehicle. So there's some possibilities there. The fact that it's not as a sorcery, it's also not at a sorcery. So if they try to destroy something, you can sacrifice and get something else back. Not quite as powerful, obviously, as the Goblin Welder, but the fact that it is a goblin and there is a goblin deck sort of making the rounds. And if there's some vehicles that are printed that are very, very good, this could easily see play, I think. It's possible. I don't think we're going to see like a Darksteel Colossus or anything like that in this format. It's potential that it has more implications in older formats, but again, I only review cards based on standard. Next up we have Mirrorbox. The legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. Okay, so 3 mana is not bad for this card. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1. Okay, that's fine. Each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature. So if you have 4 of one legendary out, they each get +5/+5, I think. So each legendary creature gets +1/+1. for each other, so it would get +4/+4. So it's essentially allows you to play a huge crusade type effect for legendary creatures, and also lets you have multiple of the same legendary out. I don't. 3 mana is probably the right cost for this, because I think 2 would be too good and 4 would be terrible. And obviously, I think the original one from Kamigawa, that was like 5 mana, and that was just the legend rule doesn't apply. The very interesting thing about this too is legend rule doesn't apply to permanents, so it's not just creatures. That could be very important. I wish this did affect planeswalkers in some way. I think that would have been neat. I don't know exactly how it could have affected them, but it doesn't apply to planeswalkers. So I think that's something not irrelevant. So, but we'll see. I mean, there's like a bird, green-red legendary deck that's kind of fringe, I suppose. May be able to make quite good use of this with Hannah and Alana. I think I played a version of it. I think I played a couple versions of it actually on my channel. The video's there somewhere. You can take a look at it. I think there was the Jund and a green-red, I think. So this is interesting. There's potential for this card, although I don't know. That'll remain to be seen, I guess. It depends on the legendary creatures. And we'll see how that kind of goes. All right, so now we got some of the really sweet mythics that were spoiled. So we have Tamiyo Compleated. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Compleated. Maybe compleated. I don't know. Anyway, compleated Sage. Compleated. Sage, 5 mana. It looks like there's Phyrexian, green, and blue. That's awfully small. So we have split. So it looks like, yeah, compleated. This can be paid with either green, blue, or 2 life. Okay, well that's interesting. So it's either 4 mana and 2 life, or 5 mana. If life was paid, this planeswalker enters with 2 fewer loyalty counters. Okay, so it comes in. So 4 mana, it comes in as with 3 loyalty. Seems almost better to play it as 5 mana or 5 loyalty. 5 loyalty seems much better than 3. So this again, something like this might not matter. Might matter in standard. It may not matter standard / alchemy, I guess. But not so much in older formats. Maybe like historic or something. This depends on what the abilities are anyway. So +1, tap up to 1 target artifact or creature. It doesn't untap. Okay, so that basically freezes 1 creature. That's pretty good. So you would have it either at 6 loyalty, which is quite high, or 4 loyalty, which is not bad for a 4 mana planeswalker. Plus, I can lock down the biggest creature on the other side, so that's pretty good. So it's essentially an ICM Manipulator 4 mana. That's what ICM Manipulator was, 4 mana, and then pay 1 mana to tap a creature. Or land, I think. Or permanent. I think it was permanent. Anyway. So tap up the 1 target artifact or creature. It doesn't untap. So this could be a very important card in standard if this vehicle deck kind of takes off. If there's anything that's, supportive of it. And I'm sure there will be. Exile target non-land permanent card. With mana value X from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card. So again, for the second ability, I guess just by virtue of having the option of being able to cast it for 4 mana, is good. I think even given the fact that it's likely better to play it at 5, just to have the option to cast it at 4 mana is very, very good. So then -7. So essentially, you would have 5 mana on this on turn 5. Sorry, you would have 5 loyalty on this, and then you could return a non-land permanent card with mana 5 or less to the battlefield. So whatever it happens to be, I guess. Create a token of that card. It's possible that with this and this, you can have another Tamiyo out, I guess. And then just kind of have a whole bunch of tokens and whatnot. So anyways, -7. So on turn 4, I think this would have been a little bit better. I think it would have probably still been fine if this was 1 fewer loyalty instead of 2 fewer. But okay. So -7, create Tamio's Notebook, a legendary colorless artifact token with spells you cast cost 2 less and tap to draw a card. That's pretty good. Again, I don't think Planeswalkers tend to not get ultimated that often anymore in Standard. I think decks are just far too aggressive for it. This is a good Planeswalker. Again, the option to be able to play it for 4 mana isn't bad. It's just a matter of the survivability factor, and it's most likely going to be better off playing it on turn 5 than you are on turn 4. But could potentially lock down a creature that can deal more than 2 damage to you, that could present lethal or something like that. So I could see that being the case there. The fact that it's blue-green also gives me hope, because I like Sultai, and I like the blue-green and Sultai in particular. So I could see me trying something with that. All right, so then we have Jin-Jitaxius, Progress Tyrant. So whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, you copy it. Okay. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. Copy of a permanent becomes a token. Okay. Whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, counter that spell. Okay. This ability only triggers once a turn. So the very first instant sorcery they cast each turn is countered automatically with this creature out. Yikes. This is going to be a game breaker, I think. So you get to copy your spells, and they get the half their spells. Wow. So I guess much like the Vorinclex, where it doubles your counters and half theirs, this is kind of like doubling your spells and halving their spells. Halving their spells. Anyway. You could reanimate this on turn 5, turn 4 potentially even. That's quite high. That's very early for this card. The fact that it doesn't gain these abilities by casting it really makes me worried. This could be yeah. Ooh. I mean, obviously there's lots of graveyard hate right now, so it probably won't be too overpowered, but that card is bonkers just on its surface. Maybe it doesn't have maybe it won't fit in the reanimation strategy. Who knows? But when I see a high costed spell or high costed creature, and there's some reanimation spells in the format, there's no reason to say that this won't be at least attempted in a deck like that. It can very easily control the board. And the fact that it basically counters any removal spell that you try to get it with. So Doomscar or Infernal Grasp or anything, it counters the very first one. So you'll basically need 2 of them. I don't know if this is a good card or not. Ooh. I mean, obviously the 7 mana gives it pause. And now I can also kind of see why Alrund's Epiphany was banned, because with this card in play, oh boy, that would be nuts. All right, so that's okay. That's a definite A++. Then we have Tesseret, Betrayer of Flesh. So 4 mana, 4 loyalty Planeswalker. The first activated ability, learn how to talk. First activated ability of an artifact you activate each turn costs 2 less to activate. Okay, maybe like Lithoform Engine, I suppose. I don't really know too many artifacts right now in Standard that have an activation cost. There are some for sure. Nothing that I think sees very much play. Okay, so 4 mana, 4 loyalty, +1, draw 2 cards. That's pretty good. Then discard 2 cards, unless you discard an artifact card. That's still pretty good. Yeah, okay. So -2, target artifact becomes an artifact creature. If it isn't a vehicle, it has a base toughness of 4/4. So it basically makes any artifact a 4/4 creature. That's pretty good. Also good that it isn't a vehicle, too. Because I think once it turns into an artifact creature as a vehicle, I think it has whatever the power toughness is that's there. So that's an interesting card, or an interesting ability. You get an emblem with whenever an artifact you control becomes tapped, you draw a card. Okay, so that's pretty good. Yeah, again, it'll depend on what's, I guess with Tamiyo, you get that colorless artifact token, you draw 2 cards with it. It's pretty sweet, I guess. Yeah, I don't know where this will fit in. Potentially, and if there's a really good vehicles and there's a blue aggressive deck potentially, gives you a lot of options there. But this likely means older format, I think, like historic or something like that, I guess. Okay, that one's okay. I think it's worse than these two here, than Tamiyo and Jitaxius. But again, it's hard to determine right now without actually playing with the cards and playing in the format with them. Okay, next we have the Wandering Emperor, 4 mana, legendary planeswalker. Kind of strange that it doesn't have a name, but that's fine. Okay, so the Wandering Emperor is flash. That's good for a planeswalker. As long as the Wandering Emperor entered the battlefield this turn, you may activate her loyalty abilities anytime you could cast an instant. So you can flash it in basically, and you can +1, gets first strike until end of turn. So good. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and it gains first strike. So you can flash it in as a pump spell to give first strike and block. You can flash it in and create a 2/2 samurai token. That's pretty good. Or you can flash it in, exile target tapped creature, which is likely what you'll do. You gain 2 life. This is a very, 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 very good planeswalker. That's nuts to me. My only issue with it right at this moment is it potentially makes the mono white deck very, very, very strong. But we'll see anyways. It's hard to say what'll be the most played. But this slots into that deck very, very easily. It gives it all kinds of abilities that helps that style of deck. It can exile large creatures. It does have to be a tapped creature, so it does have to attack. You can create a flash 2/2 samurai token, which isn't terrible for 4 mana. It's not the best, but it's not terrible. Or it's a combat trick as well. So all the abilities, 4 mana is quite high for any one of these abilities on their own. But when you take them all together and the fact that you continue to get a planeswalker, I think that's pretty good. So I think like you flash this in for 4 mana, exile one of their creatures that are attacking you, gain 2 life. Then on your next turn, and this is just worst case scenario, -1 and get a 2/2. So basically it's 4 mana, get exile target tapped creature, gain 2 life, and create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance. Very worst case scenario. So that's very good for this type of card. Yeah, I think that's gonna really push mono white quite a bit. So we just have Tamiyo's Completion. This flash, enchant artifact creature or planeswalker. When it enters the battlefield, tap enchant the permanent. If it's an equipment, unattach it. Enchant permanent loses all abilities and doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. Okay, well, it's a 4 mana blue removal spell. I don't think it's... I mean, it's possible that it sees play. Stuff like Faith's Fetters was 4 mana, didn't have flash, basically targeted anything. So it's very possible that this sees play as well, especially in the blue, the Hallowed Haunting style of deck. This is a very good removal spell, something that it's needed in its enchantment. But okay, move on to the next card. Hamishi, Reality Architect. Whenever one or more non-artifact creatures, non-creature permanents are returned to hand, draw a card. Okay, this ability triggers only once each turn. Okay, so for X and white, return a land you control to its owner's hand, and then you return target artifact or enchantment card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay. Okay, well, let's just take it as it is, I guess. So if you pay 3 mana, X is 3, so you pay 4 mana rather. So 3 and a white, you return a land you control, so you return a land. And because you return a land, you also draw a card. So because it says whenever one or more non-creature permanents are returned to hand, draw a card. So when you return a land, you also draw a card. That's interesting. And then you can put an artifact or enchantment with mana value X or less. So put an enchantment or artifact 3 or less. It's pretty good on a 3-mana creature, I think. I just don't know where it would fit. It's a very good card, it seems like, but I don't know where it would fit at exactly. Maybe in the enchantment deck, draw some cards, I suppose, replay enchantments from your graveyard, stuff like that. But that'll remain to be seen. It could be like a sideboard card, maybe in that style of deck. Okay, so on to the next one. Behold the Unspeakable, 5 mana. It's a saga. Creatures you don't control get -2/-0. It's not bad. 5 mana, I don't know though. 5 mana is Doomscar. So, but it's not bad. If you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, draw 4 cards. So if you have 1 card in hand, you draw 4. That's very good. Or if you don't, you get to scry 2 and then draw 2 cards. So you get to look at the top 2 and you can scry on the bottom, and then you draw 2 cards. So worst case scenario, it's drawing 2 cards. That's pretty good. Then you exile and return it to the battlefield. Flying Trample, a Vision of the Unspeakable gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand. That's a pretty good finisher, actually. This could be a staple in blue decks, maybe. 5 mana is a lot. -2, a -0, given... See, when I always consider cards like this now, I think about mono white and how big the creatures in mono white gets, how big they get. And on turn 5, when you cast this, if you're not on the play, -2, -0 is probably not enough to save you. It could be, but it's probably not. You probably need like Doomscar or something like that. But it's not a bad companion to like Doomscar or by invitation only. It also turns into a creature, so it's also a finisher. It's also kind of everything the blue deck kind of wants. It's creature control, drawing cards, and a finisher. So there's a possibility for that as well. All right, next up we have Spirited Companion, 2 mana, enchantment creature dog. When Spirited Commander enters the battlefield, draw a card. That's pretty simple. 2 mana, enchantment creature, and you draw a card. This is pretty good, I think. I think this is better than might be given credit for, or I might be overvaluing it. But I think of it in terms of the Hallowed Haunting deck. It's an enchantment, so it creates a spirit token, and then you draw a card from it. It's basically like a rune, one of the rune cards. That's actually a creature, so that can actually take and get enchanted by rune cards. So that's pretty good. I think it's good. I don't know if it's like amazing or anything like that, but being able to have a creature that cantrips, I think is pretty good. So okay, on to the next one. I like that card actually. Lethal Exploit. That works pretty good. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Okay, so on that basis alone, 2 mana instant. I think that's pretty good. It gets an additional -1/-1 until end of turn for each modified creature you control as you cast this spell. Equipment, auras you control, and counters are modifications. Oh yeah, that's right. I did forget about equipment being a modification to a creature as well. That's a good removal spell, I think. I don't think it replaces anything currently in standard, but it gives the modified / equipment / maybe vehicle deck, whatever that happens to be, a good removal spell. It gets better, I suppose, in like a black-green deck, maybe, that's playing stuff with +1/+1 counters. We'll see how that goes, though. It's a decent removal spell, just on the surface. All right. Next up, we have Secluded Courtyard. Enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. So tap for a colorless, or tap for add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, or activate an ability of a creature or a creature card of the chosen type. That's pretty good. Stuff like this, I don't think we'll see standard play. I don't think there's enough creature types that share. Maybe spirit, maybe dragon as well. The fact that it doesn't come into play tapped is very good. So that's a pretty good land, I think. It just remains to be seen if there's like a tribal deck or something like that. Like maybe ninja, maybe, there's probably a few decks we're probably going to see stuff like that. So this could fit into any one of those. All right. So next we have Imperial Subduer, 3 mana, 3/2. Whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, tap target creature you don't control. That's pretty good. So whenever this thing attacks, it taps a creature you don't control. So it basically removes a potential blocker. 3 mana. Yeah, draft for sure. But it's not terrible. All right. Next up we have a equipment. Ancestral Katana. Whenever a samurai warrior you control attacks alone, you pay 1. And if you do, attach it. So it gets +2/+1. It's a pretty good equipment. I don't think it replaces any of the other current equipment that are at 2 mana. There's the Dancing Sword, I think, or something like that. But it's not bad. All right. Next, we have 3 mana Unstoppable Ogre. Whenever it enters the battlefield, target creature can't block this turn. Again, more draft stuff, I think. I don't see this seeing play at all. Well, it is a warrior, I guess, I suppose. All right, so next we have 6 mana. We have a 6/5 dog. So it's an enchantment creature, similar to the Spirited Companion up here. So it's trample, 6/5 trample, draft for sure. It does have channel, which is interesting that this has channel. Hopefully there's some good versions of this. This existed before, I think. There was a 3 mana, discard it, search library basic land, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. So it basically has a rampant growth, which is pretty good. I think there was one that was like cycling. So you discard it, and then you can search your library for a basic land card, put it in the hand. Putting it into play tapped is pretty good. Again, this may be in a reanimator strategy. Maybe possible. It's not a terrible card, though, by any stretch. Okay, Jukai Naturalist. So 1 green, 1 white, 2/2, lifelink. Enchantment creature, human monk. Enchantment spells cost 1 less to cast. That's pretty good. I think if you had watched my video from the other day where I talked about green-white enchantments, one of the things I specifically said was that green does not have very many good enchantments outside of like Ranger class or something like that. This is a good step in that direction. It is an enchantment in and of itself, so it would trigger like Hallow Hunting, and then make every other enchantment you cast less. So there's lots of potential with this card here for sure. Okay, try to speed this up a little bit. The Reality Chip, legendary artifact creature, equipment, jellyfish. All right, that's a mouthful. 2 mana, 0/4. So you may look at the top card of your library at any time. As long as the Reality Chip is attached to a creature, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. Okay, so reconfigure. 3 mana. You can attach it to target creature you control, or unattach it from a creature. So you have to pay 3 mana to unattach it and then put it. So in other words, it's going to cost you 6 mana. If it's on one creature, take it off and then put it on another one. So it's 6 mana. You can only reconfigure as a sorcery. Big surprise. While attached, it isn't a creature. So basically, this turns any creature that you have into that centaur. I forget its name. Anyway, it allows you to look at the top card of your library, and if it's attached to a creature, you can play lands and cast spells. So it's very, very good. How good? I don't know. The fact that it's also an equipment is also interesting. So that's pretty good, I think. Yeah, I don't know where it'll see play. I don't know. We don't have the full scope of full picture of the potential for this card, or for the standard format going forward. We don't know how well it'll play out with, other enchantments, other equipment, stuff like that. The fact that you can play any spells, you can play lands and cast spells. So in other words, you can just keep flipping cards from the top of your deck as long as you have mana to cast them and lands to play. You still have to follow the same rule of only 1 land per turn. So I think that's still pretty good. All right, next we have 2 mana Aki Ember Keeper. Whenever a non-token modified creature you control dies, create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. Okay, so equipment, auras you control, and counters are modifications. So yeah, basically any counter. Okay, I mean there's potential here, I guess. I don't really know what potential could be. The fact that some of these cards some of these are enchantments, and also make spirits also seems to play along very well along with Hallowed Haunting. That's something to note as well. It's pretty good. It saves your, can save your creatures. It's also important to note too that it's a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token that does not have flying. They do not have flying. Okay, so Dokuchi Shadow Walker. So 6 mana, 5/5, and Ninjutsu of 4. That's a pretty big smash for 4 mana, 5/5 basically. It's pretty good, I think. Bouncing another creature. All right, Biting Palm Ninja. So 3 mana, 3/3. As a ninjutsu of 3, so same as its cost. When it enters the battlefield with a menace counter on it. Okay. So I think you can ninjutsu before blockers are declared. So you can attack and then plop this down and get by 2 creatures, or get by 1 creature. So if they have 1 blocker, this allows you to smack with this guy. Whenever Biting Palm Ninja deals combat damage to a player, you can remove the menace counter. When you do, that player reveals their hand, and you choose a non-land card from it and then exile it. That's pretty good, I think. If there is a black ninjutsu, black-blue ninjutsu deck, this guy's going to find lots of space in there. It's also possible you just play this as a 3 mana, 3/3 menace, and then you don't necessarily need the ninjutsu. But we'll see how that plays out as well. But even still on its surface without the ninjutsu, it's still a good creature. All right. Simeon Sling. So 1 mana, 1/1 artifact creature monkey. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever Simeon Sling or does this mean that you can play it? Whenever Simeon Sling or equipped creature becomes blocked, it deals 1 damage to defending player. Okay. So reconfigure 2, attach to target creature you control or unattach from a creature. Reconfigure only as a sorcery. So basically it's just like an equipment. Although you have to pay to unattach it. So it gets +1/+1. Or it's just a 1/1. This is pretty good actually, I think. The fact that it's just a creature or it can come down after as a equipment, I think is pretty good. That's kind of weird. I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess you would just play it as a creature first and then, so it could die to removal spell as well, but I don't know how important that is. That's a pretty good one. I think reconfigure probably could have been 1 and it would have been way better. But we'll see how it plays out anyway. I think there's other 1/1 mana, 1/1 creatures out there that are probably played over this, but the fact that it's both is important. It'd be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, while attached, this isn't a creature, so it's kind of like if you remember from Tempest, I think it was the Lycids. They could attach to a creature and they're no longer a creature. They were like an enchantment, I guess, or an aura. So there's possibility there for this card as well, because if you attach it to something and then that creature gets killed, then this drops down as a creature again. So stuff like this it depends on what else we see in this sort of format, where it's a creature and an equipment at the same time. Just a lot of potential there for very, very powerful cards. It's fine. I think it's not overly powerful, but anyways, on to the next one. So Covert Technician. That's pretty sweet artwork. I like that. I like this border. This border is much cooler than the Crimson Vow border. Okay, so artifact creature. It's a human ninja. 3 mana, 2/4. It has ninjutsu of 2. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may put an artifact card with mana value less than or equal to that damage from your hand onto the battlefield. Okay, so worst case scenario. Well, I guess worst case scenario is a 3 mana 2/4, and then you can put a 2 mana card from your 2 mana artifact from your hand onto the battlefield. Anytime you put a card into play for free, it can be very, very powerful. There's one thing to note about this card, though. I think something I've said before, I think a few times now in a few of the videos I've done. That 4 toughness, I think, is going to be very, very key for actually making this card more viable than maybe it could have been. If as a 2 mana as a 3 mana 2/2 likely wouldn't have seen play. I don't think, but probably would. It depends how powerful this ability is, and depends on what artifacts there are. It is interesting to note that there's, I'm not sure if any of the lands in this set are in artifacts, but there is one artifact land currently in standard. So it's possible that sees play with something like this. Okay, so now we have a vehicle. So Surge Hacker Mech. So 4 mana as Menace. That's pretty good. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to twice the number of vehicles you control to target creature or planeswalker. Wow. Okay, that's pretty good. So it deals 2 damage. So 4 mana, 5/5 deals 2 damage to a creature or planeswalker. Okay, and then it has a crew of 4. Well, there was a 3 mana 4/1 previously, so so it's not enters the battlefield or attacks. It's just enters the battlefield. This is going to be the crux of a deck for sure. A vehicle deck. It's somewhere's in there that this will be played for sure, just because it deals damage. That's very good, I think. Yeah, there's not much more to say about it. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty strong, actually, I think. But we'll go on to the next one. So Silver Fur Master, 2 mana 2/2. The Rat Ninja also has ninjutsu. Ninjutsu abilities you activate cost 1 less to activate. Okay, that's pretty good, I think. This one basically becomes a 1 blue mana. That's going to be very interesting. There could be like a ninja vehicle deck, probably. But we'll see anyways if there's like a 2 mana one. Hopefully there's not a 2 mana overpowered vehicle, like in previous formats. Anyway, other ninja and rogue creatures you control get +1/+1. So then that pumps it to a 3. That's pretty good. The fact that it's also rogue creature, I like. Could have just left it at ninja, but they actually included rogue here, so that's important as well. That's definitely going to be the crux of that style of deck, I think, for sure. And when I look at this one, the more I look back at this one, the more powerful I think this card is going to be, I think. Yeah, because with even stuff like Simeon Sling, where it's an artifact, you can pop that into play as well. So this could be very, very important in that style of a deck. But we'll see. Okay, Enthusiastic Mechanaut. So artifact creature, goblin artifact, or goblin artificer. Again, it's an artifact, so pops into play with this. It's pretty good. So flying artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's a very good, very, very good card. Well, I mean, it's not a very good card. It's a decent card. Again, it all depends. Blue-red vehicle deck. That kind of scares me a little bit with how dominant blue-red is currently. Maybe not so much with Alrund's Epiphany gone, but a blue-red vehicle artifact control deck would probably be very, very annoying to play against. But yeah, that's a good card, I think. Just on itself, I don't know if it'll fit anywhere or not, but just in and of itself, I think it's a good card. Okay, so next we have Seju, who endures. Legendary land has channel. So 2 mana, discard it. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land. Wow. Okay. That player may search their library for a land card with a basic land type, but on the battlefield tapped. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So you trade 1 mana and a land to destroy an artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land. Wow. Yeah, that's I guess even worse, or like worst case scenario, it's 2 mana. Wasn't Assassin's Trophy? Was it Assassin's Trophy that did exactly this? I guess it was non-land permanent, but I guess it also destroyed. Yeah, it destroyed a creature, I suppose. But yeesh, this card is super powerful. I think. I mean, it's probably a necessary evil for this kind of shenanigans back here, with the artifacts and all that. And the fact that you can channel at instant speed, that's very good, I think. Wow. All right, next one. Teachings of the Kieran. So 2 mana saga. You mill 3 cards and create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. Okay, that's not bad. No, I don't know. Again, with the green-white enchantment deck, I'm not sure if that fits or not. So the next ability is put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Okay. So it makes that colorless spirit token. I guess maybe the fact that it produces an enchantment and a spirit could be strong in a green-white enchantment style deck. Makes that spirit token 2/2. Okay, so +1/+1 counter target creature you control. Okay, it doesn't really fit in well with that enchantment deck. So exile it and return to the battlefield transformed. Okay. So whenever Kieran touched Orochi attacks, so it's a snake monk, exile a target creature card from a graveyard. When you do, create a 1/1 colorless spirit token. Okay, that's good. Exile target non-creature card from a graveyard. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That's interesting. So basically, you can become a 2/2 or start making a bunch of tokens. We'll see. I don't know about that. This card here, it's not a spirit either, which is also interesting. Still an enchantment though, so yeah, we'll see with this one. I'm not 100% sure where that'll fit at. Okay. Anyway, let's go to the next one. The Modern Age. Draw a card, then discard a card. 2 mana. Do it twice. That's pretty good. Exile and return to the battlefield transformed, and then it becomes a 2/3 flyer. That's not bad. 2 mana is very good. I also love drawing cards. So that's pretty good. 2 mana, scry 2, then you gain 2 life, and then return it as a 2/2 for strike. That's pretty good too, I think. Again, it gives mono white another tool that's difficult to interact with. But then when it flips, it's relatively easy to interact with, I guess. But yeah, I think that's pretty good. We'll see though. And the green-white enchantment deck. So the Dragon Kami Reborn. It's 3 mana saga. First chapter, gain 2 life. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Exile 1 face down with a hatching counter on it. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Then you repeat it. Then you exile it and return to the battlefield transformed. Whenever Dragon Kami's egg or dragon you control dies, you may cast a creature spell from among cards you own in exile with hatching counters on them without paying its mana cost. It's only creature spells. So that's interesting. Exile, so you can fail exile 2 of them. So whenever this dies, you get to cast a creature spell. Oh, I see. So essentially, you could play like Deadly Dispute with this card, and then get to cast a creature spell for free. Again, it does have to survive until this point. Yeah, wow, that seems pretty good, actually. All right. 4 mana, Seju reaches Skyward. So search your library for 2 basic force cards. Reveal them and put them in your hand. Okay, that's cool. 4 mana, doesn't ramp you. Gives you 2 more lands, though. Put up to 1 target land card from your graveyard on top of your library. Okay. And exile and return it to the battlefield transformed. So it has reach, and then +1/+1 for each land you control. So you'll get 3 lands, 4, so like it'll be a 7/7 by the time it flips. It's not bad. Yeah, I don't think it'll see play at all, though. We'll see. I don't think so. Azusa's Many Journeys. 2 mana. So you can play additional land this turn. That's a good ability. Then you gain 3 life. Then you exile and return to the battlefield transformed. Whenever Likeness of the Seeker becomes blocked, untap 3 lands you control. That's pretty good, I think. 2 mana. It's a pretty good enchantment for sure. Where it fits remains to be seen, I suppose. The Shattered States Era. So 5 mana. Gain control of target creature and then turn. Untap it. Gains haste until end of turn. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good ability. There was a creature at one point that was 5 mana that allowed you to gain control of another creature. So then you get all creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. That's not bad. Then you exile it and return it, and it becomes a 3/3 trample haste. I don't know. I like the first ability, but then the second, third don't really play well with the first one. It's kind of slow. Yeah, I don't think this will see play. It's not bad though. It's good for like draft for sure. Okay. Michiko's Reign of Truth. 2 mana. Saga. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each artifact and or enchantment you control. Wow. Ooh, that could be very strong. That's a very strong pump spell. Okay, so it happens twice as well. Then you exile it, and then this creature, Portrait of Michiko, gets +1/+1 for each artifact enchantment you control. Again, it's just a regular creature, but 2 mana that can trigger Hallowed Haunting. I think it's pretty good. Life of Toshiro Umazawa. So 2 mana Saga. So target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, or target creature gets -1/-1, or you gain 2 life. Okay, so you can kill 2 1/1 creatures or 2 X1 creatures. That's not bad actually. Then it comes back as a 2/3 that you can tap, pay 1 life, tap for, and you add black mana. You can only spend this to cast an instant or sorcery spell. I think that's better than the original Toshiro Umazawa. So, yeah, this could see play. It also gives a creature +2/+2. So even in the like a ninja, Dimir, rogue deck, I could see this seeing play. The fact that it also converts to a creature is also very good in that type of deck because it probably wants to play a small amount of creatures. But yeah. Anyway, that's was quite a long video here. Apologize for that. Lots of new cards spoiled. Gives me some hope for the format. Certain cards make me wonder what they might be thinking here. Especially stuff like this where you can play cards for free. The Dragon Kami's Egg as well. You know, you can have Jin Jitaxius under this and get to play it for free. So that's pretty good, I think. But yeah, anyways, sorry for the long video. Hopefully you enjoyed these spoilers. I'm going to put a link for them down below. If I can find the live stream that they did not that long ago, I'll also post that as well. Pretty interesting stuff there. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you later.